As the leader of the Booner Pad, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
All right, are we live? Are we good? Any issues? Okay, I don't know what is going on with YouTube. I really don't. I wish I did, guys. This is the most weirdest thing. I mean, this is just odd. This is the weirdest thing ever. Are we back? So I guess YouTube, let me see if YouTube's down. YouTube might be down. This is, you know what? Wow, first time ever. This is so, I mean, YouTube is down? What is going on? Wow. All right. Well, we're going to have to just pause this show until we figure something out here. I guess YouTube is not working. So, damn you, YouTube. Yeah, it is not it is not you guys. It is YouTube. All right. We'll see you guys when this works, I guess. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, we're back. Wait, we're so back. Are we back? Oh, okay. It just works for me. All right, now we're back. All right, here we go. All right, we are back. Sorry, I don't know what the hell just happened. All right, I don't know. I blame the NFL. I blame the NFL. I blame the officials. That's what I blame. Sorry, I know some of you guys, it was back already. For me, it wasn't. So I couldn't see myself. I was looking on YouTube. I don't know. This whole thing is ridiculous. Okay, we're back. YouTube's back. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry for the, I guess, technical difficulties on YouTube's part. I guess YouTube had like a crash all of a sudden. Hopefully it stays up for as long as we can have a show here. But we're supposed to have the doc on today. John Maakaron. Booner will be joining us, which is not like he's missing anything. I mean, YouTube is basically down for the first 10 minutes of the show. But he'll be joining. Don't worry. I do want to get into what happened today. Dan Campbell joined 97 won the ticket. I will break that down now that we have all the reporting here locally from what happened on Sunday Night Football on that first drive for the Detroit Lions. I have as much clarity as possible for you guys that are upset and pissed off. All right. And hopefully I can provide some clarity to that. I know everyone's talking about SC Chris in there, but hopefully I have some as much clarity as you guys can get from it. I will also mention Alim McNeel is supposed to play on Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I am fired up about that. The Lions put out a tweet after Dan Campbell went on 97.1 and talked about it. Alim McNeel is officially back. He said, quote, barring something happening this week, Alim's freaking playing, man. He said this on Costa and Jansen with Heather on 97 won the ticket this morning. So Alim McNeel will be playing snaps for the Detroit Lions. One of the best defensive tackles in the game, will be playing at least 20, 30 roughly snaps. He'll be involved in some capacity. Now, it is great for the Lions for a lot of different reasons. It's going to raise the confidence of that defensive line. You're getting a really good player back. But what the Lions have going right now with their defensive tackle unit is some pretty good play from DJ Reader, who stepped up tremendously and has played really well. But the reality is DJ Reader's not getting any younger. And a guy that is playing that well at his age, you probably want to scale back some snaps. So Alim McNeel will help in that area. You know, he's not getting any younger. So I think the less snaps he plays, the fresher he'll be. Tyleik Williams has been playing really well. So their three-man rotation of Tyleik, DJ Reader, and Roy Lopez. Now you have Tyleik, DJ Reader, and Alim McNeel. Alim's going to get the start. I don't know about this week, but, you know, for the future weeks. So that is great news. Alim McNeel is going to be back. We'll see with all the other players they have. I expect Kendall Fuller to play. I expect Amik Robertson to be back out there. We'll see. The big one to me is Kirby Joseph, and whether or not he plays, given what happened with Brian Branch, who knows? And Taylor Decker, I did see the comment in there about Taylor Decker. Just to know any Taylor Decker updates, they do expect Taylor to go play this week. I'm assuming that's kind of the assumption. I know Jeremy talked about it yesterday, which you could check out that video. It's live on our YouTube channel. They probably are going to roll Taylor Decker out there this week, barring any setbacks. That's another player. Something could happen this week that changes that. But they're probably going to roll Taylor Decker out there this week, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, it depends on what side of the fence you're on. I wouldn't mind if he misses one more game, comes back after the bye week. I know me and Booner talked about that a bunch, but I expect him to probably play this game as well. So the Lions will get some players, not all the players. Most of them are going to return after the bye week at some point. Not the game after, but at some point after the bye week, you'll get a lot of these players back. But it is good to have Alim McNeel back. He's a massive, massive piece. Massive piece. Dalton, before we get to Shift God's comment. So here's the thing with Brian Branch's appeal. We don't have an answer yet. If I had to give my honest opinion, I would probably lean on the side of it does not get approved. I don't think it's going to get approved. I don't think the appeal will work. And the fact that you haven't heard anything probably dictates some of that. But for an official ruling on that, I would expect the next couple of days. I know they talked about maybe potentially today, but just look for that. Probably tomorrow, I would expect it, but it's probably going to be denied. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, there's so many circumstances that go into what happened that I don't think he's going to win it. And I think the history of Brian Branch does play a part in that. You know, he's had double-digit fines in his NFL career. Just how it works. You know, unfortunately, I don't make the rules. Players are judged differently based on their history. And Brian Branch, whether people like it or not, has racked up some personal fouls and some different fines. For example, this year, throwing Tucker Kraft's helmet. He got fined for that. So they're going to look at him a little differently. You know, it's not like a player that never gets any fines got suspended. Reputation matters in all walks of life. It's not just Brian Branch. Okay, so I would expect that to not get approved. My mom's name is Booner. It's a great username. LOL, Alim isn't even top 10 if you look at the stats. Chill, Jeff. Here's the thing, though, okay? And I know I'm not going to sit here and argue that Alim McNeel is better than Dexter Lawrence, Quinnen Williams, Chris Jones, you know, bring up all these elite defensive tackles. I'm not doing that. What I am going to do, though, is tell you he is a top 10 caliber defensive tackle. And the problem with the stats thing is defensive tackles in the NFL, you can't always judge it by the stats. You know, I'm not saying stats don't matter when it comes to what Alim McNeel does, but if you're looking at what he did last year before he went down, he was very good. I'm not going to sit here and argue he's one of the best in the league. That's what he's paid to be. And I think we can all agree that we expect Alim to kind of continuously get better. But I'm not going to say the guy's not even a top 10 defensive tackle. He's got to play. He's got to be closer to that top 5 mark. But I think right now you could argue he's in that top 10. I mean, just look at Alim McNeel over the last couple of years. And I'll tell you right now, actually, now that I have it, and whether you like it or not. We've been using PFF on this show. I know people hate it, but try to look at it try to look at it as a good measurement for positions that you don't always get stats. Like, for example, wide receivers, you don't really need PFF for that. Offensive linemen, I like PFF for. I think interior defensive linemen, I like PFF for. Defensive line in general, I like PFF. Alim McNeel in 2023 was the 6th overall highest graded defensive tackle. He was top 5 in run defense. Top 5 run defender, according to PFF. You know what last year was? He was the 11th overall highest graded defensive tackle. So I'm just saying, if whether you hate PFF or not, that's what it was. And to be honest, the eye test passed that as well. He was very good. He just has to get back, get in the rhythm of things. He looks in shape, which I know last year he lost a bunch of weight. But I was on the show today, Lions Collective, which you guys can check out on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. over at Lions Collective. And I spoke to Justin Rogers, Will Birchfield, Colton Pouncey, and they've gotten to see Alim McNeel. They said he looks in the best shape. He looks shredded. He looks incredible. And he said, if I didn't look this good working as hard as I have, something's wrong. He looks great. So I'm excited for Alim McNeel. I think that's going to be a player that is going to help you tremendously. And he's a different type of defensive tackle than they have. He's a different type. Like Tyleek's more of a nose, even though he plays more of that 3-tech. DJ Reader's a nose tackle. Roy Lopez a nose tackle. Alim McNeel is a true 3-tech pass rushing defensive tackle that brings a lot to the table with his run defense as well. He's very complete, and I think Lions fans should be excited to have him. I really do. Now, let's get into this whole referee debacle. All right, I put out a video today kind of breaking it down. And, just got a notification. Lions, this is per Adam Schefter. Lions safety Brian Branch's 1-game suspension was upheld upon appeal. There's your news. There's your news for anyone that was wondering. Yeah, I knew that was people were gonna wonder about that at some point. So there's the breaking news there. Which, are we surprised? Let's get into what happened today. So Dan Campbell joined 97.1, just like he does every single week, and spoke to John Jansen and Jim Costa. They went into the first drive, the trick play that was called back and by the way, let's get this out of the way at the beginning. That play was illegal. Play was illegal. Okay? It was against the rules. We can get that out of the way and clarify that. It was against the rules. Jared had to come to a complete stop in order for that play to work. He was classified as a quarterback. He was under center. It was against the rules. Dan Campbell spoke about that yesterday. And essentially admitted, hey, we got to do a better job of communicating that to the players because they did exactly what they were coached to do. So Dan took accountability. That's on coaching. That's on coaching. The play was illegal. So let's just get that out the way. Now, to get to the referee side of things, the officiating. That's where it got very tricky. All right, because now we can get into some different types of waters. All right, here's Dan Campbell on Costa and Jansen speaking about that play call and what the referee told him. And let's dive into it more. But here's that clip.
I want to ask you one, and I want to go back to it. I don't want to harp on just like we had talked about earlier. But when we asked you, did that call come from New York about overturning the Goff touchdown? Are you guys inquiring as to why you were told that, or inquiring as to what happened in that situation, why they went back a minute and a half later and threw the flag?
Yeah, we asked on all of that. We asked on all of it, and I can't tell you any of that.
But it was an official that told you it came from New York?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, obviously it's raised a lot of questions and concerns from the fans. I know you guys probably have a lot of those.
I want to ask you.
Okay, so Dan Campbell in the clip, clearly, he said something very important. The call came from New York. That was Dan Campbell's interpretation. The call came from New York. Now, that is important. Him saying the call came from New York that makes this whole thing a lot more interesting. And I'll explain why. All right. So this is what the referee, the head of the referee crew, Craig Rolstead, said after the game when speaking to, and Justin Rogers put this out. I specifically requested the pool reporter ask about the potential replay assistant in New York's involvement before he talked to Rolstead. Here was the relevant exchange. Question: what kind of help or assistances, if any, did you have from the replay assistant in Kansas City or from New York? Rolstead said, we did not have any assistance from Kansas City or New York. Question: so that was just a discussion amongst the crew itself? Rolstead says, that's right. You see where this thing gets very weird. So you have Dan Campbell saying that the referee told him it came from New York. And then you have Rolstead, Craig Rolstead, who's the head of the officiating crew, say that they did not have any assistance from Kansas City or New York. So you have two differing opinions on the same crew. That's where this thing gets murky. Okay? That's where this thing gets very confusing. So we're looking at either A, Dan Campbell misinterpreted what the referee said, which I guess could be an outcome. Maybe the ref told Dan Campbell, hey, it came from upstairs, and Dan took that as it came from New York, but it really came from upstairs. But they said they didn't have any assistance from Kansas City. It came from the crew itself. So this whole thing is just very, very odd. And to be honest with you, I expect the NFL's in like a weird position because they could probably just not comment on it at all and get away with it. Because they're probably like, what is this? What is going on? There's obviously some sort of miscommunication or something much more sketchy going on, which I'm not going to go there yet. I know why people would assume that it has something to do with, it's fixed and all this stuff. The NFL has to comment at some point. They have to at least clarify the situation. This thing's very confusing. It's super confusing. It just is. You have two different guys saying two different things on the same officiating crew. I don't know if it was Craig Rolstead who talked to Dan Campbell or someone else. So maybe there was a miscommunication among that officiating crew. That could be that could be something. Maybe that officiating crew, maybe the referee who talked to Dan Campbell and Craig Rolstead, because I don't think Craig talked to Dan Campbell. I think it was just someone in the officiating crew. They didn't clarify if it was Craig Rolstead who talked to Dan. They didn't say. I didn't hear anything about that. They must have been on different pages. Or if you want to put on your tinfoil hat, and this thing can get a lot more interesting. Maybe we're dealing with some deeper shit. I don't know. But that's essentially what's going on. All right. That's what's going on. So it's very odd. People are obviously frustrated. And I actually, Pride of Detroit put out this article, which I do want to read some of it because it went into kind of why the play was illegal. It went into some of the context within what's been going on. So let's just kind of read this part of it. Shout out to Pride of Detroit too. We had Jeremy yesterday. You could check that video out. It writes here, there's not much to question about whether the Detroit Lions' strict play against the Kansas City Chiefs was against the rules. Lions quarterback Jared Goff was called for an illegal motion on a play he motioned from quarterback to receiver and called a touchdown pass from Dave Montgomery. Here's the thing, all right? Read this part. By definition, Jared Goff had established himself as a T formation quarterback by standing directly behind center, which meant that if he went into motion, he needed to stop for a full second before the snap. He didn't, and it was correctly flagged. So there's that part. They also went into kind of what we just talked about in this article. For those who are wondering about the play, that's the clarity on the play. But what remains under question is how the officials got there. The flag was not initially called on the play, which is why people were frustrated. But after conferring for well over a minute, which is another reason why people were frustrated, officials threw the flag and the play was nullified. So, that's and this is what Craig Rolstead's explained after the game. So this is the full quote. All right. It's my job to see if the quarterback stopped initially. The down judge watches the player in motion, and we had to communicate between him, my umpire, and the line judge whether or not he initially stopped at the quarterback position, and then whether he stopped after he went into motion out of my view toward the left-hand side of the field. There was a little bit of confusion in our discussion whether he had stopped initially or whether he had stopped at the end in what we were talking about. That's why the flag came in so late. And then that's when he said, we did not have any assistance from Kansas City or New York, which I showed you guys. And then Dan said, well, it didn't matter if I disagree or agree or disagree. I know it came from New York. So Pride of Detroit writes, it wasn't clear if Campbell was making an assumption or told that directly. And then they asked about if you can clarify if he was told by an official. He said yes. And when it goes into other things here, you can read the full article, but that's where this whole thing gets very confusing, guys. It's very, the NFL, they're not going to say anything, but that's the unfortunate part is the NFL owes this Lions team. And even though they don't really, I mean, they're probably like already onto the Buccaneers, but at least like Dan Campbell, they to just communicate what the hell happened. You know what I mean? Like what in this fan base, I mean, the fans are probably more invested than the players because they're already onto the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but just for NFL fans in general, like what was this about? Is it a miscommunication within the crew or are we just bullshitting here? What happened? Like it doesn't make it's frustrating. And I could see exactly why it would be frustrating. For sure. I mean, I don't understand it. Art, I'll read some comments here. So post your comments, your thoughts. Art says the best part of this wasn't that they effed us with the late flag. It was that they started the play clock and didn't even give us time to run another play after we ran out of the field. Yeah. I mean, that's another good point. D-Ray, Jeff, there's no reason to read it out. New York made the call. We don't, but here's the thing. We don't know that. We don't know that for certain, D-Ray. You're going off of what Dan Campbell said, which I get it. You want to believe Dan. Like Dan said he was told. But we don't know for certain. There's not evidence to prove that New York helped out on that call. I don't know. And if they did, that's bullshit. But I don't know what. The only evidence we have is Dan's word, which obviously we would tend to believe his word. But that's all we got. And is Dan human? Like, could Dan maybe he misinterpreted or maybe the referee misspoke? Yes. Trying to leave a little bit of room for something, you know? My mom's name is Booner, says the NFL isn't going to say shit. Yeah, I agree. Toasty waffle, integrity of modern sports is becoming non-existent. I think what hurts this whole thing is sports gambling is bigger than ever. So with that being said, when things like this happen, people are immediately going to go to it's fixed. That's how people are going to react. You know, it's fixed. And that's the influence of gambling now in 2025. It's just how it is with every sport. People assume everything's fixed. It's just how it goes. D-Ray says, I love you, Jeff, but why would Dan lie? I'm not saying Dan lied. I'm saying I'm not saying Dan just woke up and decided to lie. I want to know what happened in that officiating crew. If there was a miscommunication, maybe the ref that spoke to Dan thought they talked to New York, but they didn't. I don't know. I mean, who knows, guys? I'm not saying Dan's lied. I'm saying maybe they just fed him bullshit. I don't know. We can't act like we know everything. I mean, there's shit. That's why I would like the NFL not to come out like Steve said and say we screwed the Lions. I don't think that's clearly that's not going to happen. But the NFL were to maybe put out a statement or something. They're not going to do this. But in an ideal world, put out a statement and say that there's nothing going on. It was a miscommunication between the officiating crew. You know, there was no help from New York, whatever, to at least make people put people at ease. You know, that's just how it goes. So yeah, it's very sketchy, guys. I'm not going to say it's not. I want more clarity. I'm trying not to jump to conclusions and just say it's fixed. That's why now let's understand this. All right. Let's understand this. That called back touchdown, whether we whether we want to get frustrated about it or not, they lost the game by more than one score. And that was in the first quarter of the game. Could it have affected momentum? Absolutely. But they didn't lose the game because of that one called back touchdown. They did not. They lost the game because of a ton of mistakes in that game. And, you know, looking back, would it be easy to say, well, just give it to Dave Montgomery? Yeah, probably. But if they score on that play and do it correctly, we're all excited. So I can't completely blame them for that. You know, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and be like, well, they should have just handed it to DeMont. I get it. But the reality is they didn't. And they called, I think, one of the best play calls in John Morton's, well, the best play call in John Morton's regime, but I think one of the best in Dan Campbell's regime that just didn't count. Probably the best one that didn't count, to be honest with you. They just didn't execute it correctly. That's what happened. Toasty Waffle says, hope the $450,000 for Goff first TD scorer guy sues. That was another. Who bets that? Number one. Who bets that? That, to me, like, and I'm just spitballing here. It's like I'm just chopping it up with you guys. When I see bets like that, I definitely do think to myself, what in the hell does this guy know? Who bets Jared Goff first touchdown? Who does that and puts 5 bands on it? How many times has Jared Goff scored the first touchdown? That's insane. That, like, I have to think to myself, someone has inside information. Like, there's something going on here. Was it someone from Barstool? Like, that makes me think, like, is Johnny Moe talking to John Gruden? And then John Gruden's telling other people, hey, Goff's going to catch it. He's going to do something on the first drive. Who's putting $5,000 on this man to score the first touchdown? It's insane. Shift God says Buccaneers should be the focus, not the reps. Well, Amon-Ra spoke about that on his podcast today. And I don't need to play the clip, but he essentially said what me and Booner have been saying all week. And a lot of people in the chat have. I know people were coming at us for saying that the whole game was fixed, not just the first drive at what ended on that first drive. But yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra said it himself, man. Like, we didn't lose because of the reps. We lost because we had tons of opportunities and we missed out on those opportunities. Well, Booner's here. He's ready to go. We got the doc joining in about 10 minutes. Let's bring in Boone. How we doing, Boone?
How we doing? Doing well. Sorry I'm a little late today. Got a busy life over here. Got a lot of things going on. Got to make a lot of people, different people happy. But I'm here.
Yeah, what'd you think of this whole referee stuff today? What do you think of it all? Is it confused? It's really confusing. It's really odd. And people, where I'm coming from is I'm trying to stay a little unbiased. Yeah. I'm trying to look at it from all angles. I know people, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, but it is fishy. I'm not denying it's not fishy. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and you too were probably the two biggest, I would say, out of a lot of the people in the media. I feel like we were pretty big. I don't want to say like advocates, because advocates probably isn't the right word, but we were the ones that were more so like, hey, you didn't lose this football game because of any of these penalties at all. You know what I mean? Like I've stood on that. I've made those comments. Me and you put those tweets out there. We talked about it on Monday on the show. After the game, post game, we talked about it, where I think a lot of Lions fans were blaming the refs because of the loss. And I don't want to do that. Like Amon-Ra today even was perfect. It's just like, listen, like there's so many opportunities in a game to win, and they just did not execute. Like I said, remember on Monday, Jeff, I said after the first 2 possessions, they were 1 for 6 on offense. The 7 possessions that, defensively they gave up 5 scores out of the 7 possessions they had. So they only got 2 stops all game. Like that's unacceptable at the end of the day. Now, what I will say is today I did tweet out because I was on the side of, hey, and I think you said it perfectly, Jeff, with the Jared Goff called back touchdown to where it was an illegal play, right? Like people are like, well, Booner, Jared wasn't under center. No, he literally touched the center. He touched the center on the side. I went back and watched it today to confirm because there were people telling me, well, he didn't actually go up to the center. He was up at the center. So it was an illegal play if you want to like break it down. And I'm sure those guys, like rule-wise, they're trying to figure that out as well on how they need to do that better. But what I've switched on was And listen, this is where I think, Jeff, like a lot of people in my comments today, I had a tweet that just blew up, a million Kansas City Chiefs fans. And it's like, listen, I don't care about any one of you. We lost the game fair and square. Like I don't care about that. What my concern was today is the NFL. The word I keep using, Jeff, you know what the perfect word for this? It's integrity at the end of the day. And I said this, I put a tweet out there and I said also, NFL fans, every player, every coach, and every fan, and anyone that is a fan or cheers on in the NFL sphere should be questioning what happened on Sunday Night Football in that 90-second window. That's my problem. It has nothing to do with the result of the game. It has nothing to do with how bad the refs were in the game. You guys can all deal with that. Whatever. Don't care. I think it's just very, very weird that this was a play call, or not a play call, but a penalty, that there was no flag thrown. There's a rule to where you can't review it unless there is a flag thrown for illegal motion. And this crew gets together for a minute and a half, which is typically how long it takes for a review to come down from upstairs. Dan Campbell's told, hey, this came down from upstairs, whether that's the NFL or, like you said, Jeff, that's the crew upstairs. But Dan Campbell's told one thing. After the game, the ref says something else and contradicts it. And now you're in this thing where it's like, hey, who's right? And Jeff, you knew on Monday, I tweeted out and said the statement, hey, I have to believe the ref at this point, right? Like Dan says it instantly after the game. The ref follows it up in his post game saying the opposite. I would think the ref knew if it went upstairs or not. The fact that Dan in back-to-back days and then on a Tuesday morning, I know he doesn't want to be asked about it, and he was kind of like, I don't want to talk about it, but the fact that he sounds upset about it and that he says, yes, I was told, and he confirms for like a fifth time that he was told that it came from upstairs, I think that's concerning. And you know what the next step is with that, Jeff? It's why hasn't the NFL put a statement out? Dave Burkett did reach out and they said we stand with the ref, but why doesn't the NFL just come out and say, listen, this never got sent to New York? The New York never called down.
That's all really it is.
That's where I get a little like, okay, it's as easy as Roger Goodell puts a statement out. Someone puts a statement out saying, listen, the NFL did not reach out to them. They did not help them. This was the crew in the building. If they just did that, this is fine. I think it's a little sketchy and it's a little weird that this all happened the way it did. And people are like, well, Booner, you Lions fans, stop complaining. That's all my comments today. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's just with the integrity of the game. Like, why all of a sudden with this play does it come from the NFL when in the rule book it says it cannot come from the NFL? Like, that cannot be reviewed. There cannot be a review on an illegal motion unless there is a flag thrown, and there was no flag thrown. So it's just like, where did that come from? I don't know. I mean, there's people that had thousands of dollars on Jared Goff's first touchdown. If I was one of them, I would sue the NFL. I would, because they broke the rules. It has nothing to do with the Lions, nothing. This is like in the integrity of the game. Did the NFL go out of their way and break their own rules and their own protocol to change a call on the field? Because that's not how the game should work. That's my concern. That's why I put the tweet out I did today. That's why that's where my brain went instantly.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's ironic that people are commenting on your Twitter saying that you're bitching when all week people were bitching.
Yeah, and I was the one telling people to stop. Like
I think that's hilarious.
And you saw the comments that I had. I responded to these people and be like, I do not think if this call was changed that the Lions would have won the game. They still would have lost that game. They played terrible. I've tried to clarify that to Chiefs fans. It's an isolated
situation that we want more context on. Like
I took back what I said yesterday about Dan Campbell and the ref situation, because yesterday I was vocal on Twitter being like, Dan must have misunderstood. The refs obviously were right in this situation. I take all of that back. I think I was wrong. I think that they actually did call down.
Yeah. Now let's summarize all this by saying the takeaway is, despite what sketchy stuff's going on with the NFL, is that play has to be called correctly. It has to be executed correctly, which Dan took accountability on that. So I give him credit. They got to execute that play as the rules. I'm talking about the rules within the play. I'm not talking about the referees and all that bullshit. I'm talking about Jared's got to come to a full stop. They got to know that.
Yes.
Like stuff like that. They got to. And actually, Will Birchfield brought this up today, and I guess it is a good point. Like the Lions they do ride this line of like trick plays where when like the Dallas game last year, another controversial game. What happened? It was a Dan Skipper. It was Taylor Decker ruling eligible because of they're attempting a trick play or essentially trying to throw. When you get into these kind of scenarios, the chances of referees making mistakes or fucking up increases because you're kind of putting it in the ref's hands. Like, well, it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad. I'm just saying that's like the only unfortunate part when you do some trick plays is like these refs, man. They might not see it the same way you see it, or they might not. You know what I'm saying?
I think the problem with that too, like, yes, remember what I mentioned yesterday, Jeff? The reason I was away, I wasn't on Dan's side, was because Dan said that he messed up and it was on him. There is a sense to where, hey, if you are, and I think Dan needs to know, like, he needs to be a little bit more thorough. And I don't know how his pregame goes with the refs. I know he has to sit down, and if they have trick plays in their bag that they're going to use, he does have to tell the refs that and break it down so those go smoothly, so things like this doesn't happen. This is the second time in 2 seasons, especially with a team like us, Will said, like, you are in those scenarios where you're doing new things that other teams don't do. So you're putting the refs in harder spots to figure and make sure the rules are right. This is the second time in 2 years now where this has happened. And pregame, Dan knows, like, I have to be extra thorough with explaining to the refs, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. I think that was also a part of Dan Campbell being a little edgy or upset or mad about the situation, and him yesterday taking full responsibility for it, was because he did say pregame, hey, I didn't tell them Jared's going to be under center or he's going to be that's on me and I have to do that. So I do think he has to. All right, Coach Isaac said 3 years ago, but 2 and 3 years, no matter what, I think you still have to be. He has to be a little bit more thorough to making sure, hey, this is exactly how it's going to go down. And then if there's an issue, they can, approach him in regards to that, and they're ready for it as well. Because obviously that was a situation to where it wasn't legal, and I'm sure if it was thorough before the play or before the game, they could have made that adjustment real quick or tell Jared, hey, and Graham, don't snap the ball until Jared's at a full stop.
Now, before we get the doc joining, which, by the way, YouTube, man, it was acting up today. I don't know. I just looked up. YouTube's had like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of reported down. I just posted a video actually while we were live, and it had 1 view in 30 minutes. So
I was driving home at like 7:15, 7:30, I was watching a YouTube video and it stopped. And then I tried to watch like 3 or 4 different ones. It was all of YouTube. I tried to go to a bunch of different, accounts, different people. And by the way, too, Nick P just put in there, did you see who's back? Slick Rick is back. He in August, he tweeted out, he said, I'm done. I'm retiring. And then today he is officially back. And he didn't just put like he didn't just come back, Jeff, to be like, here's one dog bone. Here you go. Whoop. He came back and dropped like 50 bombs on people. Some things that no one heard either. Some things where people were like, wait a second.
Slick Rick, man.
And it was weird. I went, Jeff, doesn't he have like 50,000 followers?
Yeah. He's actually grown. I followed him when he had
What's his at?
It's like Slick Rick Scoops. It's something like that. Slick
Rick Scoops. Because he still follows me. The only problem is I think he got a new account. So he must have followed me from his new account. Maybe I'm wrong. Can you send me his Twitter?
Let me see.
Because he still follows me, but then he only has 500 followers today. And I was like,
Ricky Scoops, I think he deleted. I think that account.
So he must have followed me from his new, unless he just got shut down today.
He might have.
I don't know. I can't find it. He got banned. Dude, because I noticed today, I was like, he's back. And then I follow him, and he follows me, but he only had 500 followers. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah, he lost a lot of his.
He had like 100,000.
He's got some insight. He said something about Chris Olave getting shopped, which that could easily could happen. I'm not surprised by that. But before we have the doc join, by the way, I need to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. So allow me to do that. You can get 100% match up to $100 using the code CT Sports. They also have another promotion going on, which is separate from the current promotion. Free $20 entry, no deposit required. You guys know what Sleeper is. It's a fantasy sports and real money gaming app focused on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper has become one of the fastest organically growing fantasy platforms in the world. It's got millions and millions of active users. It's a real money product that also features Sleeper picks. That's where the fun is. All right. And I actually came out with my picks today, which you could check out in YouTube videos posted on our channel. But all you got to do on Sleeper Picks is choose 2 to 8 of your favorite players. You can do it pregame, you can do it during the game, or you can do it across different sports. Pick more or less than the stats they give on Sleeper. You get it right, you can get up to 1,000x payouts. Share with your friends, get rewarded together. Remember to gamble responsibly, and don't forget code CT Sports. Get 100% match up to $100. Nick P says Rick said Olavi going to be a Patriot.
Yeah, he also said Jalen Waddle's on the go. He said there's possible Jalen Waddle's going to be on the go. He also threw out there Jalen Waddle potentially to New York. And then he also said Jalen Phillips is on the he said a lot of different Dolphins guys. I can read you the tweet here. He said the Dolphins are actively shopping Jalen Phillips, a name to watch as the deadline approaches. Sounds like Miami is ready to move him. Teams are also calling them about Chubb, Waddle, and Achane. And then he's just he tweeted out this picture, Jeff. This is one of the greatest things ever, because you know how he's like his thing's like the dog with the red NFL hat.
Yeah.
Do you see the picture? He came back today and tweeted this picture out. That was his first tweet back, and then he just started dropping bombs, and then he deleted his Twitter right after he dropped all of them.
I'm telling you, man. And we actually have Slick Rick's arch nemesis, John Maakaron, the doc, the DOC, covers the Detroit Lions for Sports Illustrated. Our good friend joins us every single Wednesday. The man of truth, one of the most opinionated people I know. That's why we love him so much. Please welcome to the show, the doc. Doc, how are we doing today, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to deactivate my account after listening to all the comments that are going to come my way over the next hour and a half. It's interesting, huh? The ever so popular Ricky Scoops is potentially going to be out of commission. I don't know what's going on. I guess he also dropped some news about some Miami players, the fire sale. But listen, you know me. I'm always going to be here. I told you. For a year and a half, I've appeared on this program, and I'm not going anywhere unless unless I'm feeling under the weather, man. What's going on? Listen, any news regarding the Lions that we got to talk about?
Well, Doc, I'm so glad you're here, because this is like right up your alley. I know you've been covering it great today on Sports Illustrated, because it's been a huge news. I mean, Dan joined 97 won the ticket today, Doc, and spoke about how, he was essentially told that the call came from New York, but Craig Rolstead, the head of the officiating crew, told a reporter that they didn't go to New York, or it wasn't from Kansas City. It was amongst the officiating crew themselves that dictated what happened there on that first drive. What is your takeaway on this whole thing, Doc? I know you've been doing your homework on it. What's kind of your thoughts on this whole thing? Did the Lions get screwed, or you think it's more of a miscommunication? Where are you at with it?
Yeah, man, it's just a complete travesty. It's just a cluster F is the best way to put it. And it's so unfortunate that that's a storyline that mars this game. Look, everyone knows the Lions didn't play well enough, clearly. But you can't discount the fact that starting a game 7-0 is potentially beneficial to the Detroit Lions. So if you're a fan of the Lions, you should be angry. So I'm not going to poo-poo it. It's a travesty. One of the biggest rants I ever had was after a Monday night game in Seattle, where Jim Caldwell just didn't fight enough and fight hard for the Lions when you had the football clearly gets punched out of bounds by the Seahawks, and it wasn't called. And so there have been so many botched situations involving the Lions. It's unfortunate. It's gross. Somebody's dishonest. First of all, why would an official tell Dan Campbell that it came from upstairs New York or wherever? It's not supposed to happen that way. In the end, it is a situation in which the officials took time. And now here's the reason why there's a lot of, conspiracy theories now that have emerged. There's gambling involved. There was a lot of action put on Jared Goff opening touchdown that cost people money. So when you have, first and foremost, money on the line and you have competitive imbalance, it's a travesty. It's not supposed to happen. And for Dan, you know, I've always been of the opinion that the way he approached it on the radio was a little bit meek. Like, he's like, I can't talk about it. And yeah, I was talked to in New York. Like, you know what? What's going to hurt? You know what? You're making money. What's a $50,000 check to be like, you know what? Why would you take the high road in this situation? I get it. You don't want to get suspended. You don't want to have a $100,000 fine, or, you know, Jerry Jones got fined $250,000 for giving the finger. I get it. But what would it have hurt Dan Campbell today or on a platform to just be like, the NFL officials have botched this again. I was told it was from New York. That's not supposed to happen. We sent it in. I don't care if they said, don't talk about it. You reveal it. I sent the tape in. They told me they botched it, that they did send it in, and we got to keep it quiet. I don't care. It's frustrating because the number one thing, the job is to get it right. And the number one thing is, in regards to how this all played out, is you feel like Jared Goff and Dan Campbell kind of planned it to run the play correctly. Boomer Esiason said they ran it correctly. Jared Goff set himself in a way that didn't maybe establish himself as a quarterback, so he doesn't have to stop. So it's just a big cluster F. It's confusing. And at the very least, the information to the public has been covered up. How can you have a pool reporter say one thing, Dan Campbell hears another, and we all just sit back and go, it's okay? No. In the end, that should have been a touchdown for the Detroit Lions. It's clear in a lot of different ways. It should have been a touchdown. They took points off the board for your football team. You should be angry. That's why everybody's upset, because this football team got jobbed. Now, we're not talking about did it cost you the game or anything like that, but in the end, you got jobbed. It's not right. You have to have integrity. You have to have, and in the end, it sucks because it feels like more and more people are accepting the fact that the league has officials that are incompetent, lazy, and halfway dim-witted to go out there and call football games. In the national spotlight, that's the kind of situation you're portraying to the world, is that you have a bunch of incompetent boobs that don't know how to communicate and then go out and tell reporters and lie and say, or they come out and say, it didn't come from New York. Then what did it take you 90 seconds for? If you understood everything that's going on, what are you conferring about? So in the end, I'm frustrated, like everybody else would be, that the league has officials that are incompetent and always seem to end up costing the Lions in ways that are inappropriate.
Yeah, Doc, I'm right there with you, actually. And just another step with that, to me, I don't even know if it's just the officials. Obviously, they're incompetent at times. But even just as the NFL as a whole, the fact, I told Jeff, Doc, the fact that the NFL hasn't made a statement in regards to it, and the fact, too, that they potentially sent – NFL is the one that called down from New York and was the one that made that decision. I think the NFL as a whole, that's been my thing. I said remove the Lions, remove all of your fandom, remove all of that. It's just a weird – remove the teams that were playing with the Chiefs and the Lions. Why were they calling down and breaking their own rules and their own protocol to do that? It was very, very weird. And it's something that I think is going to hopefully – I'm shocked that national media hasn't taken more control of it and talked about it. That's probably because the NFL runs all of that too. So yeah, it's an interesting world we live in, where they just control everything and they control the media in the sense where local media like you, Doc, and us, we're the only ones that doesn't have the NFL calling us saying, hey, don't say this, don't say this. Feels like nationally the NFL is having conversations behind the scenes, because what this should have been talked about, in my opinion, the Adam Schefters of the world, Ian Rappaport's. They report the smallest of news that no one really cares about at times to get news out there. How have they not reported just one story in regards to this? This feels like it's a big deal. And again, take the teams that were involved removed. In any sense, this is a massive deal as the NFL and the integrity of the game as a whole. And if the NFL wants to protect the integrity, just come out and say, hey, we didn't call down from New York. If they made that statement, then I would be fine with it, even if they're lying. But the fact that they didn't say it, that shows that there's something going on. And it's really, really
right.
weird.
Or you say, you know what, we did call down from New York and we're sorry, it was wrong.
Yeah,
that's
one of the
problem is that you now have speculation and rampant issues with people looking at your league and wondering, why would this happen? Because it's not out of the realm of possibility. Hey, does the league want Kansas City to be a team that's a winning team, potentially because they have one of the biggest billionaire, top end market pop stars in the world. Hey, who's to say that that's not what's going on? Who's to say that the NFL didn't say, hey, no matter what, officials, make sure that you don't, allow this Detroit Lions football team to have any sort of competitive edge against this Kansas City Chiefs team. And you also have to realize that you also are in bed with gambling. So you cannot have any sort of sense of improprieties. Did Vegas have any influence of this? Did somebody get into the official situation and said, whoa, we got a lot of money on Jared Goff coming in on Jared Goff scoring first. So we can't have that be the first, hey, maybe one of the officials. We can't know. We don't know. Maybe one of the officials had somebody else. So it's unfortunate when you let this level of incompetence go on. But what's the reason why? Booner, the reason why the national media is not going to talk about it is because of the fact that they want to stay in good graces with Kansas City. They're one of the teams. Could you imagine if Adam Schefter does something and then the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl and he wants to go for an interview? They're going to say, no, thank you. So they want to stay in good graces with the league, and they want to stay in good graces with the Chiefs. So it's true. It's Detroit versus everybody. It's not, in my opinion, a loser mentality to focus on the officials. It's not, because all you want is a clear, competitive, fair contest. And by and large, I feel like that the officials in this game were a little bit one-sided and made it a little bit more difficult for the Lions to win the game. They're part of the story. You don't want that. But in the end, Booner and Jeff, you guys realize this. The officials are incompetent. The league knows it, but they don't care to fix it. That's the problem.
Yeah, Doc, let's just kind of game as a whole versus the Chiefs, just taking the official situation out of it. How did you think the Lions played? What do you think as well were some of the negatives of this game? Because I've said it all week. I just think the Lions played bad football. And even if the officials weren't on their side or were on their side, I think they would have lost this game either way, just as bad as football as they were playing and the mistakes they were making. What was your takeaway from the game as a whole?
Yeah, I would have liked the game just started 7-0. First of all, let's give credit for that first 10 minutes. Everybody knew and everybody predicted that the Lions were going to run the football down their throats. That first drive was 10 minutes. It would have been nice to cap it off with a touchdown. But, to me, at that time and place, trick plays are nice. And we always have the benefit of hindsight. I get it. But at the 1 yard line, I feel like the Lions got too cute. And you just hammer it in there from the 1 yard line. You got Gibbs, you got Montgomery, you got Goff, tush push action. I don't feel like you needed to trick. It just doesn't make any sense to me. What do you need to trick? Listen, you could tell everybody. You could announce it over the headset to the stadium. First down, we're going to David Montgomery. Try and stop it. Just tell everybody. You know it. You invest all this money in this offensive line. You have Penei Sewell and you have this young guard that everybody really respects in Tate Ratledge that is growing. You don't tell me 3-4 runs off tackle would get there. I think it's sometimes they overthink things and you run a play that's complicated that needs all this intricacies. I'm of the opinion you on a road game, you eliminate any opportunity for these officials to make calls or anything. You just punch it in. But, after that, what happened was it was uncharacteristic mistakes. I mean, you saw it. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a drop that killed the momentum of the game. And you go into halftime and you come out. Listen, I love the fact they took the ball first, but switching it up, the momentum was swung when the Chiefs get the ball to start the second half. It's a little bit unfortunate. But even though they didn't play well, all the missed tackles, Patrick Mahomes playing great, you were within 3 points to start the fourth quarter. You needed one defensive stop. And we're going to talk to Kelvin Shepard Friday, and I'm sure he's going to lament it and he's going to be upset. You needed one defensive stop, and you have a boneheaded play by Aiden Hutchinson that gives 15 yards, and the Chiefs are able to get the momentum with the touchdown to Hollywood Brown. That was the drive you needed to stop. They weren't able at the key times like they have in the past to get the stops. It was sloppy defensively, and offensively, you just didn't do enough to, and the Chiefs, credit them, their defense really kept things in front of them and were able to dictate to the Lions what happened. So it was sloppy. That's what happens in losses. You have to credit your opponent. But at the same token, there were a lot of mistakes uncharacteristically that the Lions made. Amik Robertson in coverage, gets picked off. But after that, he played pretty well. So it was a loss. Look, you had a lot of injuries, not an excuse. But Mahomes, which was crazy in that, I think I said it here last week right after I came on, man, Mahomes was basically telling everybody he was excited to pick apart the secondary, and the Lions, because of the injuries, were forced to play more zone. When you look at it, you watch the film, you're like, oh, okay, I see it, but it's not executed as well as man-to-man. Why do they love the – so now I know why do the Lions – because I was asked, like, man-to-man is tough to run, but they do it so much better than they do zone. Mahomes picked apart the zone, guys. He found the open lanes. Mahomes mastered and outdid Calvin Shepard. It sucked, but I believe they'll learn from it.
Hey, Doc, Dan spoke today and gave an update on Alim McNeel. He's expected to play, barring any setbacks. What kind of impact do you think Alim McNeel will bring in this game, and kind of the importance of having him back now that we officially have the confirmation he will play this next Monday night?
Heck yeah, man. You get one of your dogs back. I'm excited. Hell yeah. I think it gives you more options along the defensive line to try and stop the run. I love the idea of Alim McNeel. First of all, I think it gives you a jolt to the defense. You look at a player that just is so good against the run. He's part of your identity. He's nasty. And I think he'll be somebody that's just going to gives you options. Now, I'm of the opinion that he's going to get the 20 to 25 snaps kind of situation, ease him into the process, but just another player that can be there to be a big body and to be stout against the run and help alleviate some of the pressure for Tyleik Williams and DJ Reader. So I'm excited to see him back, man. It's also kind of, I think for him, those tough injuries, man, you do all the work, you do all that, you suffer an injury. And I think for Alim McNeel, you want to feel like you're helping the team again. So it's great. You get another guy that you count on. He's a big part of that defensive line, and you get him back in the fold. And any player that can help stop the run and help, be somebody that can potentially, allow for Calvin Shepard to scheme in a way to confuse or limit the effectiveness of Baker Mayfield. I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it. I'm hoping that he gets, some great opportunities there. And listen, when he went down, I think that a lot of people, when Aiden went down, were kind of, understanding, okay, it's significant last year, and they kept winning games. When Alim McNeel went down and tore his ACL, I think all the pundits, myself included, I know I said it here, once Alim McNeel went down, that effectively ended the Lions' chances of winning the Super Bowl. Now he's back in the fold, and I can't wait for this bye week to get here too, for me personally and for the team, because everybody, Taylor Decker, Kirby Joseph, Avonte Maddox, Tyrion Arnold, you're going to have a lot of people back in the second half of the year. Dan Campbell said it. The end of November and early December is going to be great. And look, if you're going to look at it from the optimistic prism, getting these injuries out of the way the first half of the season might be a little bit better for the Lions if they can stay healthy the second half going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the injuries here. Taylor Decker, Doc, what are your thoughts on him getting back this week? It sounds like there's going to be a Taylor Decker return this week. Do you think that he gets back? And if not, who do you think? Do you do the skipper, or how do you see this whole offensive line situation working itself out with Taylor Decker?
Yes, I think Skipper was, based on how the film looked, a little bit better than Manu. And I feel like, I'm hearing the same things you are. Taylor Decker is chomping at the bit to return. Those weeks off, really help out in regards to gaining the strength and being able to come back home. And look, playing at home, Monday Night Football, all that added juice is, I think, enough to carry him through. I do think he'll play. We'll find out. I foreshadow him probably being limited or not practicing similarly, to kind of give him rest, veteran and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. We get the 3-day situation starting tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll start to see who practices and who doesn't. It's good, man. Look, Taylor Decker, when you really look at his game, when he's on his game, is a guy that protects Jared Goff's blind side, and he's a veteran with leadership, and he's gone up against some of the toughest defensive linemen in the league. So you're comfortable with him. But Dan Skipper did okay. I felt like, there was some comfort level there with what he was able to do to push the pocket a little bit. He didn't get clearly beat too often. But look, I feel like for the Detroit Lions, getting Taylor Decker back, if you have that offensive line healthy, I do think you maybe improve Jahmyr Gibbs' yards per carry average. And I think it opens things up again with the play action, just opens things up for the offense. So if you get him back, man, look, I was one of the ones, and I'm open to saying it, a couple of years ago, I didn't say to trade Taylor Decker because I thought he was a bum. I said that, this guy has value and potentially could get you something in return for opportunities to get your team better faster. But in looking at it now, just seeing what he means to the team, his toughness, his grittiness, the way he carries himself, he's a veteran leader that's you would really love to see a guy like that. Hopefully, if he can win this, if the Lions can somehow, some miraculous way win the Super Bowl this year, then he can go off in the sunset because, I do think he's starting to stare his mortality in terms of football right in the face. I mean, the guy's dealing with a lot of injuries. He's seeing every day the great photos of Frank Ragnow catching huge deer, fishing, having the time of his life. Frank feels like he's in the best shape of his life right now. He's enjoying life, all the fun stuff. That's tough when you got to grind 12, 13 hours a day. And what's crazy to me is I still don't know how they do it because I tried to picture myself doing it. I don't know. You play a tough 60-minute contest on a Sunday, and then the team wants you to come in on a Monday to recover by lifting. Oh my God, I couldn't get out of bed. And you realize that you got to do all that work and all that prep and all those hours to get your body right. It's a lot of work. It's a mental grind more than a physical. And I wonder how much longer. Many people say it's going to be 2-3 more years. And I wonder with Taylor Decker how long he's going to want to play in the National Football League.
Yeah, Doc, I did want to bring up to you Kendall Fuller, the new signing by the Lions. I know in 2023, he played pretty well. He's a veteran. He's had over 100 starts in his career. This isn't just, to me, some patchwork. Like, he's a guy that can come in and contribute for you and start this week, or I guess next week against the Buccaneers. But what did you make of that signing by the Lions? Because I think even when guys get healthy, he's someone that can still compete to be a starter. I mean, I know he thrived more in zone coverage than man coverage, but what do you think of Kendall Fuller, the player, and how can he help the Lions in this injured secondary?
Hefe, you got it right on the head. You hit it right on the head. I think he helps out in the zone when you were lacking in the zone coverage. I felt like, wow, it was lacking. There was miscommunication. There was missed tackles. You had Kirby Joseph not have his best game, but that was also based on injury as well. So he comes in and gives you competition. I like his veteran status. What's funny is that he's been on a lot of lists for many years for the Lions to target in terms of free agency or in trades, and now he's here. I think he'll do a good job. I do think there's a potential role for him to be an elevation or maybe signed to the roster right away. And it's great. I think that, clearly the Chiefs were able to pick apart the Lions zone and they were willing to dink and dunk it and find the middle. They found the middle of the field quite often. And I do think that what Kendall Fuller brings is that veteran experience. You can do a couple different things with them. So you're absolutely right. This secondary, look, Rock Ya-Sin is a veteran. He can do some things, but the more talent you have, the more veteran experience that you have, it's great. And also knowing that he's got a history, across the league, you can also pick apart some information from his time in the league. So I think it was a good move. And I feel like it's one in which this secondary can benefit. As much talent as you can get out there, the better, because my goodness, man, Patrick Mahomes is just one of those dudes that when he saw is going to be Amik Robertson and Rock Ya-Sin, he definitely was like, oh, I can find a way to pick apart these the secondary and the linebackers and get them out of their comfort zone, man. But at the same token too, I really do believe it is bad that the Lions lost, but it's a loss that doesn't derail the season. It's a loss that you can learn from, that you can send a message like, hey, if you guys don't mind your P's and Q's, bring the total effort, focus on every play, and do your job when you need to, look what can happen. You can lose a contest. And it's very rare where Dan Campbell sets the tone for the team and says, hey, we need a defensive line to impose their will against Patrick Mahomes, and we need to score. Dan Campbell knew the number. Now, he would have got a tie, but Dan Campbell knew that the Lions needed to score 30 points. I was a little surprised that the offense didn't meet the standard, but at the same token, the reason is Steve Spagnuolo knows every inch and every nook and cranny of what Calvin Shepard is thinking, and he took advantage of it and gave the information to Andy Reid. So you know that Steve Spagnuolo mentored Calvin Shepard. So when the mentor definitely understands what's going on and you have an offensive genius like Andy Reid, it's a tall climb. And you have the officials who understand that we have a chance to influence a couple plays here and there and allow the Lions to have a tougher climb. It was going to be a tough uphill climb, and it was just a perfect storm. That's what produces a loss. But I think there's going to be a silver lining this week because I think the Bucs are coming in and they're battered, and I think they're going to get beat down by the Lions, and they're going to have a tough, tall task against a pissed off Detroit Lions team.
But well, real quick, just to follow up, you mentioned Rocky Sin. Could this, and I actually, I forgot who brought it up today on Lions Collective, but I want to ask you this. Rocky Sin, you were there in training camp. He was playing some safety. Could this Kendall Fuller signing maybe dictate that they might want to get some looks at Rocky Sin at safety, given no Brian and maybe no Kirby? Do you think you could see Rocky Sin playing a little bit of safety? We haven't seen it yet this year, but what do you think? They played him a little bit in training camp at that safety spot.
Ding, ding. I think that's what part of the strategy would be, is that we got to take a look at what's going to happen. And you realize, first and foremost, you got the word as you guys started your show, Brian Branch upheld the suspension. What was the point? Like, I do think anytime you have a chance to talk to representatives, you can give your case. I get it, but he had less than zero chance. I don't know if he had to go anywhere, if it was Zoom. I hope he didn't have to travel to kind of defend himself, because he had literally, it was guilty man walking, going up there. And then you see Jordy Nelson, a Packer. You really thought he was going to be like, yeah, you slapping somebody was just great. We're going to just overturn that. So listen, you appealed it. I get it. Maybe you get a chance to say, hey, look what he did, watch what he did, and all that kind of stuff. But man, you're absolutely right. So you're going to get Thomas Harper, and Kirby Joseph may need to sit, because of the way he played. Dan Campbell basically said it. He didn't play that good, and it's largely due to injury. We all know it. So if you sit him down, now you have at least an option to put Rocky Sin there. Rocky Sin he's a veteran. Look, he's a role player. He's good, but there's going to be times where teams can pick apart some of the weaknesses and some of the things that he doesn't do well. And look, it's anytime you have more of an opportunity for options, if you get Kendall Fuller up there or one of the others in terms of Whiteside or Trey Flowers, competition's great. And I like Trey Flowers a lot. I think his size and speed allow him to do some things, but just the nature of his ability to do, both man coverage or in zone might prevent him from getting out on the field too much. But you're absolutely right. I think that the opportunity for Kendall Fuller to get some action is legit, and you could put Rocky Sin back there. And it gives you that clue too, because I was a little bit surprised that because of the value that he brought, Lauren Strickland, I thought had a chance. So I do think there's a chance he might come back. So we'll have an opportunity to see. He did clear waivers. So we'll see if he has a chance to come back, because I know he has special teams value, and he's a safety, and that's a position you might be light for the next, at least for this contest.
Doc, other side of the ball, me and Jeff actually talked about it yesterday a little bit, and we had Jeremy on, and he spoke about it. The running back situation with David Montgomery. He only had 4 carries on Sunday night. How do you see them kind of – we talked about yesterday potentially them going back to last year's spot where they let D-Mont kind of start the game and kind of, wear the defense down and then go Gibbs. How do you see this thing working out? Because it feels like it's not kind of the right way to go, just giving David Montgomery 4 carries, especially – when he's out there averaging almost 5 yards per carry. Not almost, he is. I think it's like 5.2. It's kind of hard to take the ball out of a guy's hands like that. I know you have Jahmyr Gibbs, but D-Mont is still producing. How do you see that kind of working out?
Yeah, it was real interesting. It's a real something fun to look at and talk about. Now, before I address it, Halfway to your point, I think on the collective, because I was enjoying the show before you guys came on, and it was another great episode of the Lions Collective with 4 great hosts. And even though you were scared to give a prediction, and I don't begrudge you not doing it, your picks have been terrible, it sounds like. But I think it was Justin that talked about Rocky Sin because he's followed him and did a story about him. So I want to guess, if you guys go back, if I'm wrong, I'm putting my vote that Justin talked about Rocky.
You're probably actually, I think you're right. You're actually spot on, I think.
So no problem, because I am an avid listener. I love the show. It's very well done, and I think it's well hosted. But I if you ask, I might have a little bit of constructive criticism for you.
I'd love to hear it from you, DLC.
Later, I'll give you some constructive criticism to kind of spice it up. You need to challenge these boys a little bit, and I like the way you facilitate. But we can make the show a little bit more enticing for the viewer, and then I'll share that. Now, to the point regarding the balance, I do think that David Montgomery is a guy that's the true definition of a guy that maybe we were all wrong, maybe could start the game, kind of wear down the opponent a little bit and really get after it. He needs more touches. It's clear. You want more balance. Why? Because of the fact that you want to make sure these guys are healthy. But here's the issue. First and foremost, Jahmyr Gibbs is on any given play a guy that can take it to the house. You see his stops and start burst is amazing. His change of direction is something to behold. They want him to keep developing as a between the tackles runner. They want him to grow. So they're sacrificing a little bit of David Montgomery for the purpose of developing Jahmyr Gibbs. Now it happens. But now you see what happens is that sometimes the running attack is not met with the full power. Unfortunately, the problem is that opposing defenses know that here's what pissed me off is that sometimes in football, you recognize that there's going to be 8 in the box. And the idea is Jared's supposed to check out of that. But sometimes there are advantages you want to give. I felt like they ran into 8-man boxes way too much in this contest. And I just think that there was not enough of quality play calling to get out of that. And I don't know if they had the right answers or they just in that situation, I feel like maybe the answers were good enough. Sometimes you got to give credit to Steve Spagnuolo. The man is a legend where he shows you one thing and does another. And it's just one of those deals where the defensive prowess of the Chiefs kind of got to the Lions and they limited Jahmyr Gibbs at times. So I think if they do it again, I do think there will be more balance. Well, clearly, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a little bit better pass catcher, but I do think that David Montgomery deserves more touches than Jahmyr, more touches than he got. But I also, at the same token, against different opponents, I love the ceiling of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like you just see it. You just see quite a bit of what you can do with Jahmyr Gibbs, and they like it. They like what they see. They see the explosiveness. They see the ability. They see the opportunities that he brings to the table. So I am not of the opinion it should be 50-50, but it should be, a little bit more for David Montgomery.
Doc, I want to get your thoughts now. We can transition to this Buccaneers game a little bit. Baker's the MVP front runner. He's balling. I know you mentioned he had some of the injuries, and you kind of teased what you think would happen in this game. But what's your initial thought of this Monday night matchup? Because every time the Lions play the Bucs, it's always a really good game, despite what happens. But they're 6-1. They're top of the NFC. What kind of problems do you think they'll pose for the Detroit Lions here at home, or if any? What are your thoughts on the matchup?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that and to the point for Brandon, I watch the Lions and I'm employed to cover the NFL. But if someone's not good at something, don't you think that they want Jahmyr Gibbs? Like you say, well, Jahmyr Gibbs is not good between the tackles. Well, don't you think the coaching staff sees that and wants to improve upon that? So they give him opportunities to try and improve that. So I just think that, there's opportunities for trial and error in a football contest. And there's opportunities to see, can you do and expand your horizon? I think with Jahmyr Gibbs, trust me, in my humble opinion, give it a year or two, you'll start to see a player that can do some things. Listen, you just go by you must not watch the draft or you must not follow the Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes made Jahmyr Gibbs a first-round pick. So from my experience, first-round picks get all the love. Guys that are David Montgomery, more of a guy that's going to take a back seat. It's common sense. That's why they're doing it. So trust in Dan Campbell. But I do think you're right. I do think more. I think John Morton will give David Montgomery more, but you're going to ride a Super Bowl win with Jahmyr Gibbs. Trust me on that. That's a fact. And listen, whether I watch or don't watch the NFL, you're commenting on the things I'm saying. So let's have some fun with it and relax. It's all about philosophy, different options, And I do think that, in my opinion, you could be right as well. My opinion, I'm going with Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more than David Montgomery. You're not going to face the caliber of the Chiefs defense all that often. Now, the great thing about the Bucs is, man, they're coming off with some injuries, man. Godwin, Egbuka. You're hearing Evans is dinged up. Who the hell is Baker Mayfield going to throw to? I love this matchup. I think that you're going to see a lot of favorable when Christian and all these writers do their tail of the tape. There's going to be an opportunity to see that the Lions are going to be favored in a lot of these avenues. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to be able to buy stock in Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you have a drop in the national stage, forget it. I got it going. Look at that. Christian texted me as we're talking. There's a signing. I'm on it. Who'd they sign, guys? Tell us. I'm talking
Jamie Robinson, defensive back, 1-year deal.
Who they get?
Jamie Robinson.
This guy right here, Doc, right here. They signed DB Jamie Robinson to a 1-year deal. was with Kansas City's practice squad previously. He's a safety.
There we go. Christian's on it. He messaged me, so that's what they got. So more help. I don't know anything about him, so
Yeah,
you guys,
I mean,
I'll
he's
learn something
played-
from him. In about 8 minutes, 10 minutes, Christian will have it up there. We'll learn who the hell. Yeah, exactly. Shift guy. Who the hell is that guy? I have no clue. I've never heard that name ever in a in a million years. So, but look, he's a DB. More help on the way. You need it. You need all the help that you can get. Listen, I'm confident. Look, the Lions don't lose. Look, the one factor that there's something going on with that Baker Mayfield. He's got that aura, and he's keeping his team in the game. And he's one of those players that just gritty, scrappy, and he's a little bit different than Mahomes in that he's not the prototypical mobile quarterback, but he's just shifty and he can move around the pocket. He gives the offense a lot of opportunities. So I'm excited for the chance to see this contest. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think it's one of those ones where there might be 2 games on Monday. This one at 7:00. So I'm excited because it's a little bit, if I'm right, a little bit earlier start, which makes it for a fun time. But I don't feel, that the Bucs just coming in now. If they had Ibuka, if they had Godwin, it might be a little bit more challenging. But right now, you take them seriously. You understand that they're kind of viewed by some in the latest power rankings as the best team in the NFC. So I think they'll take them seriously, and there's going to be a great opportunity to bounce back. And look, 5-2 heading into the bye week. This is a great opportunity for this Detroit Lions football team. I see it. 5-2, baby.
Doc, thoughts on this Detroit Lions defense? I know obviously you already kind of throughout the show we've spoken about this, but with Baker, all of those weapons are out. They have. I don't think we can name half of them. And Baker's been playing at an MVP level. What is your confidence level that Calvin Shepard can put a scheme together with what he has to stop Baker Mayfield?
Oh yeah. The linebackers are going to be pissed off. They didn't have their best game. The defensive line's going to get a jolt with Alim McNeel. What's my confidence level that Calvin Shepard will bounce back? It's very high. Listen, man, the guy. Sometimes you put together a plan, and sometimes the opponent just has a little bit more knowledge than you. They understand how to break it down. And look, Pat, there's no shame in losing to Patrick Mahomes. There's no shame. It's all about learning, and it's all about opportunities to grow. Amik Robertson gets another opportunity. He played a great game. You're getting more opportunity to see guys like Thomas Harper, what kind of role player he can bring to the table. Listen, no excuses. They didn't play good enough. You don't play good enough on the road, you're going to lose. But they're 4-2, and you look at it in context, like you guys want to say, I wasn't even mad when the game happened. Like, to me, when I did the post game, I was just like, well, they lost. Yeah, there's another call. I've literally the blown call was like the 19th blown call I've seen and reported on. I was happy. I was actually more happy that Brian Branch threw a punch. You know what I mean? Or threw an open-handed slap. I was happy that went down. That was a little bit of a physical expression. And look, if some guy is going to push you down on the field, I get it. Now, that's the fan in me is like, yeah, knock him out. The professional is like, you got to be careful. You're getting a reputation. You're hurting the team. It's double-edged sword. I respect him for being that way, but you can't get suspended. Like the whole world's watching you, and you can't it reminds me of the guy that's a habitual speeder, and he's just a nice person, good driver, but sometimes will just go 40 in a 25 over and over and over again in the school zone. And you're like, bro, the police are sitting right there. You got to stop going 40 in a 25. But it's 38 and I was busy and I had to get to my appointments. Like, listen, they're watching you. They're putting their vehicle right there and watching you. So you have to act accordingly, and you hurt your team, and you can't do that. So, but I respect Brian Branch, and listen, of course he's a good guy. They wouldn't bring him here if he wasn't a good guy. So all that rhetoric about, everyone deflecting, oh, he's a good guy and he's a warm-hearted soul and he would give Doc the shirt off his back if he was broke. Well, that's nice. But we're talking about the football player. And the fact of the matter is he's a repeat habitual offender. And as a result of that, Dan Campbell is livid that they've told him stop doing that. Like, you have to operate within the rules. He should have really, in the end, if he wanted to handle it right, the guy pushes you down, you get up and push him right back. You take the flag, you take the $20,000 fine, you keep it moving. You don't get suspended, So it's unfortunate that went down, but with Brian Branch. But listen, I do think finally maybe this suspension, dude, if $200K in fines doesn't change your attitude and you're still gonna cross the line, that's a whole level of crazy that I'm not really familiar with. So I think that this suspension is going to tweak it a little bit, where whistle to whistle, you play like a dog. And when the whistle ends and the game ends, take off your helmet, shake up everybody's hand, and the competition is over. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy all the way through. With the Bucs, man, I feel like it's going to be a professional contest, but I just feel like the Lions coaching staff, and with Calvin Shepard, John Morton, when they have a setback, I feel like they're going to outcoach and put together a scheme. And really, Ford Field is a dungeon. I just feel like they're going to drown out and make it a real nightmare for the Buccaneers. I think everybody's ready to party on the Monday night, come in all hammered, liquored up, have a good time. I don't feel like the Lions, and if they were to have another setback, you still have a second half of the year. You guys got to remember, you're getting some horses back. And I think you guys saw the video. Ahmed Hassani's training, looking stronger and stronger. So what Dan Campbell said, I believe in what he says. When November hits and December, you're going to get DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold. You're going to get Marcus Davenport for another game or two. And you're going to have the deadline coming up. We're going to talk next week maybe, or in 2 weeks, about the deadline. We're already starting to see names coming. The names are kind of recycled names. But anyways, my job will be to I started broad with what others are saying. You can check out Lions on SI, what PFF said, some of the names that some of the analysts are thinking. And then we're easing into it. As we start looking over the lists, we'll start giving you names that we think really have a chance. The first list from PFF and the national writers has kind of been hey, here's who's available. I don't know if those are the guys that the Lions will target, but it's a good starting point. And we're right around the corner, guys. 3 weeks away from the deadline. If Brad Holmes paid attention to anything that happened with Scott Harris, he knows that this football team has a chance to make a run. And you need to add and support this football team externally with, guess what? It came to me. It came to me in a broadcast live. The Lions need Doc to win the Super Bowl. No, not me coaching or motivating or giving them a rah-rah speech, although it would help. Nope. I'm tempted to put it in a headline, but I'm not that egotistical. The Lions need Doc to win the Super Bowl. One defensive lineman, one offensive lineman, one more elite cornerback. You win a Super Bowl. Defensive line, offensive line, cornerback, Doc. You win it all, baby.
Yeah, well, Doc, I know people were you mentioned linebacker one time, and people were like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But you know what? Your point was just bringing every body possible, just bringing a bunch of bodies. I do want to ask you the next couple of games here. I mean, because we have the Lions have the Buccaneers, they have the Vikings, they have the Commanders, they have the Eagles. What do you kind of think over the next 4 or 5 game stretch for the Lions and just the difficulty of that stretch? And what would be a suitable record for you through the next 4 games? What do you think the Lions can do over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. Hit me again with the exact order. It's the Vikings, and then who's after the next couple games?
So the Lions, I don't know if it's the Commanders or the Eagles, but they have so it's Bucs, Vikings, Commanders, Eagles, and then Giants, Packers. But just those 4 games, what's a good record for you, Doc? Where do the Lions have to be over the next 4 weeks?
Okay, I do think Bucs, Vikings should be wins, 2-2 at minimum, and I think that the Eagles are a team you can exploit. The Commanders just lost to the Bears. That's a lot of prime footage that was given to Dan Campbell based on how the Bears attacked them. So I think that realistically, you could really expect 3-1 in this stretch. I think the Bucs and the Vikings, it's always a challenge, in the division, but you're coming off of the bye week, re-energized, and you're going to have a chance to really get some of your guys back. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I do think 2-2 at worst. And if you have an opportunity to get them all, but 3-1 seems really, really, really realistic. Maybe you have a setback against the Vikings. I would doubt it, but the Eagles are always a tough team now when you see how they've kind of handled it. The, surprising retirement of Zadarius Smith. Their offense is kind of in peril. A.J. Brown is not happy. If you guys want a receiver, maybe you see if
Doc.
Would you do it?
Doc.
Listen.
Doc, you're not getting a receiver for what?
I haven't given my opinion yet. If A.J. Brown is unhappy, would the Eagles consider letting him go for a draft pick? Would they let him go
to Detroit?
Yeah, why not? If he's a
Doc, I'm gonna shut. I have to shut. Hold on, Doc.
Listen.
I got to shut two positions down that you said last time. You said linebacker and you said wide receiver. I promise you, 0.0% chance either of those positions become a Detroit Lion, unless it's like a couple years ago with DPJ, where they just brought in like a flyer on the back end.
I didn't say it was realistic. What I'm saying is, if that guy
will never happen.
is a problem, that's another asset that you could consider.
Asset for what? It's come on, Doc.
They won. Did I miss something? I feel like that man has a ring, and I don't think it's going to happen.
There's a lot of guys around this league that have a ring.
Hey, Jalen Phillips
are very slim, but he is unhappy, and I feel like the Lions make people happy. Now, the reason why I didn't put wide receiver in my doc list is I think Isaac Tesla can do so much more than what he's doing. And you guys are so adverse. We're just talking amongst friends, having some conversations. I know the numbers are big with his salary, but let's just, sometimes water cooler talk is about, could you imagine A.J. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporte? I mean, just a plethora of weapons can be very, very, very fun. And I do think that this offense would embrace a talent like A.J. Brown in this offense. No, it might not happen. It probably won't happen, but
no, it won't happen. 0% chance it happens.
Listen, the man is the Eagles have been shown to be willing to trade with damn near anybody. And we'll see how the Eagles season progresses. It may not be to Detroit, but there do seem to be signs that A.J. Brown is not happy with Jalen Hurts. And I think that he would become quite happy with Jared Goff. And, that's just my fantasy booking for 180 seconds. Now, to the point of the schedule, listen, man, this is a good football team. You can see it. You can clearly see the makings of a dominant offensive line with the weapons are just amazing when they play well. And I would really love the opportunity to continue to see the winning ways. So they're at 4-2. I see 5-2 at the point there. Get the win with the Vikings. That's 6-2, and you drop one. So I figure you drop one of the next two games. So 7-2. You'll be 7-3 after 10 games, baby. Lovely, 7-3, baby.
Doc, before we get into mailbag about the Lions and everything, I know people are going to want to ask you a lot of Lions questions, especially after last week and this week coming up. I do want to get your opinion because we haven't spoke with you since that Friday night Tigers game that happened last week, and then everything with the press conference with Scott Harris, AJ Hinch, and all of the comments that were made or not made about Tarek Skubal, and then also kind of heading into this year off season with free agency. What are your thoughts? One, this will be a two-part question, and I'll let you just cook on this, Doc, because I just want to get your thoughts. One as a whole from this last season. I know the Alex Bregman stuff has started to come out about the contracts they denied from Bregman, and then also heading into the offseason, your thoughts on what they need to do and what you want to see Scott Harris and this Tigers organization do to be a contender again next year.
No doubt. And, man, I'm going to try to maintain my composure. And look, chat, you guys are just so all into reality. Sometimes fantasy is just fun to think about. See, that's why I am in the position I'm in. I'm open-minded to the idea. Never say never. And I watch maybe a lot of wrestling, and we're always like, oh, this guy's never going to go to AEW. He shows up in AEW. This guy's never going to come back. Never say never. Odds are slim. Booner's all up in arms. But just allow your mind to say, what would this offense look like with A.J. Brown? Would it be nice? It'd be nice. Just think about it. Sometimes you got to realize that there's maybe more to the story than, oh, he's not happy with his touches. He may have an issue with Philly. He may not like it. He may be oversensitive. We don't know. We don't know exactly what the deal is. I haven't dove into it, but just allow yourself to entertain it. Like what I say over a fun chat has no bearing on what's going to happen. Relax, enjoy the conversation. It's just a thought. Like I said, Lukas would tell you that's a crazy thought. Just allow yourself to say, man, that offense with a good A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith got open so much more because of A.J. Brown. He helped the team win a Super Bowl. So I always am of the opinion that I fantasize and look at teams that win Super Bowls and go, I wouldn't mind players on there. I could see a fit. I could see a John Morton going more toys. And also to me, also, you have to remember, I'm of the opinion, as well as many, that you give Jared Goff as many toys as humanly possible. And remember, my doc plan didn't include a skill player. It went in the trenches and a cornerback. So remember that. The first thing I said was doc, defensive line, maybe edge rusher, offensive line, cornerback. Now, toys are fun too. Another wide receiver would be amazing for Jared Goff, because you saw that when he's pressured and when there's opportunities on the road against some really great teams, the play of the offense wasn't exactly unlocked the way in which we would like. And more weapons are amazing. Now, to the disaster that was the Tigers. Good. Scott Harris he got what he deserved. The Tigers got what they deserved, quite frankly. And what was crazy was I wasn't mad. I watched the 15 games and I watched the 15 inning game and I said, these guys can't get a hit. Must be nice. Must be interesting. Wouldn't it have been nice to have a bat in this lineup that could get a hit? 0 for 23 or 0 for 21, 22 in the middle of that lineup, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters. Wow. What a disaster. Tommy Kahnle, you put him in. That was a crazy move. I mean, the whole community, I tweeted it live. I said, Tommy Kahnle's in, the season's over. The whole world knew it. And to me, I wasn't mad. Once the deadline happened, this beautiful fan base with their big brains understood what happened. And I'm so proud. I was never more proud of this fan base than their reaction to the deadline. They said, Scott Harris, you boned us, bro. You made a deadline maneuvering that told everybody, you told your team, you didn't believe in them. You told the fan base you don't believe they're winning the World Series. The whole fan base said, bro, what the hell are you doing? That's not a deadline moves that you would make to win a World Series. Nobody, other than some wild ass homers, came out and spoke positively about that deadline. They said it was atrocious. It was disgusting. And the fan base got pissed because you were not willing to push it when you know you got Tariq Skubal this year and next year at most. And whatever reason, he chose the I like my guys more than the external guys. Okay, I get it. I understand it. That's your position. But this fan base got pissed, and it's unheard of that in a second playoff game at home, you have pockets of fans that just stop coming for tickets that were $15 to $20. Why? Because that first game at Comerica Park, you embarrassed the game of baseball with how dreary the weather was. Dreary doesn't mean you have to play that way. You pissed off your fans and they didn't show up. So you got what you deserved, which was you got to the same spot. Now, they look at it a little bit differently than fans do. They look at it like this organization was ass. Now we're in the postseason 2 years in a row, and we got a great minor league system. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about what you got in the minors, bro. Nobody cares. Yes, wow, we got McGonigal, Clark. We got guys. We got a highly ranked minor league system. Great. There's a couple handful of guys that love to pay attention to that kind of stuff. But by and large, commercially, nobody cares about the minor leagues. Nobody cares. Most people, and I'm talking about, of course, there's hardcore people that will pay attention to, oh my God, Toledo and what's going on in Grand Rapids and all that kind of stuff. There's a handful of people that love that. But commercially, at the biggest level, who's going to come up here and win? You're telling me that these three young guys are just going to come up and win the World Series next year? Come on, you're not fooling anybody. You blew your chance. Most people believed if you would have made a couple moves, some serious moves, a Bednar, a Suarez, go for it. You would have earned the respect more of this fan base. Nobody cares about sustained success. Nobody cares if you make the postseason 20 years in a row. They care about one thing, winning. And they felt like, wait a minute, why did this team collapse? Why did this team have such an epic collapse? That's something to be looked at. It's not a talent thing. There's more to it than that. And it's unfortunate, but look, Scott Harris, he does have to reflect. He took the questions. He answered them all. He's going with the minor leagues. Fine. I get it. You want to keep your own guys, but there is an opportunity to believe that this baseball team could have been in the World Series this year if they just would have made a couple of moves. You got Finnegan. That was it. Woohoo. But you had guys that you tried to bring here that were no longer on the team. And then you tried to sell that, oh no, Paddock was not really meant to be impactful. Well, then why are you making a deadline move, bro? So he tried to act like the smartest guy in the room. The fans sniffed it out within 5 seconds. And I think the blessing was the reaction was visceral because they knew from the second the deadline happened, the smart fans, not the homers, not the ones that were trying to sell hope and sell bullshit. everybody knew once the deadline happened, this team was going to falter at some point. And that's what happened. And now the sick part is that he's not understanding the alignment of you have the best pitcher in the world. We know you're not going to pay him $40 million. And I don't care if you don't. But to me, he's inviting triple anger. And maybe, the chat can spin it a different way. To me, you're going to face one of the biggest backlashes you're ever going to face in sports when Tariq Skubal signs with the Dodgers or Yankees or Padres or Astros somewhere for $300 to $400 million. You're going to face backlash. Why not say and go sit in the meeting and and maybe you guys can open my mind to it. Why not sit in the meeting room and go, we got Skubal for 2 years. Let's go for it. Let's sacrifice. If you're halfway good at drafting and evaluating, does it take 40 years to replenish a minor league system if you give up 5 guys? Does it take 50 years to do it? No, not in my mind. Do they stop the draft if you give up somebody? No, they keep drafting. They keep coming. High school players still keep playing. So I would have been the voice. I would have said, listen, guys, we got Skubal in 2 years. We got a 2-year window. That's it. This is our window. It is incredibly hard. The Dodgers are spending 6 times as much as us, and they're going to spend 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times as much as us. They have the money. They're spending money like it's coming out of their ass. We have 2 years. Let's push. Let's go for it. We can sell. We're going for it. Let's go. Get the talent. Get 2, 3, 4, 5 players here. Make a push. Give up something. It doesn't work this year or next year. You go, all right, back to the drawing board. Instead, you pissed off your fan base, and you're going to piss them off again when Skubal leaves. I just don't know why. I don't know. I know it's a lot of money these guys make every year. There's millions of dollars, but I'm so disgusted that none of these GMs just whip it on the table. And see, I'm a whip it on the table kind of guy. I play poker. Sometimes you got to push all in with a 6-9. You got to push in. You got to be have a little bit of gamble, not reckless, but these guys will not push in. And what better place do you have than being the best team in baseball through the first half of the year? I don't know, man. They just are sustained success. Let's build through our farm system. Bro, it's a 50% proposition at best. You never know what's going to happen when these guys come up here. And I feel like, too, this fan base also was spoiled by a guy named Dave Dombrowski. He would whip those minor league prospects into great players. It was like, boom, go, boom, boom. So in my mind, I blame Dave Dombrowski. He told me these prospects are chips for talent. And he did it great. They were in the World Series. This is just okay, we'll get to the postseason every year and get our ass spanked by the Mariners and Guardians. Woohoo.
Hey, Doc, we got some mailbag questions for you. We'll start with Travis. He says, hey, Jeff, can you ask the Doc what made him want to get into covering sports? Was it something he always wanted to do, or did it come later in life? Hopefully it's not a stupid question. It's not a stupid question.
No stupid questions. You guys can ask me whatever you want. I'm open book. Just like Dan Campbell. I answer everything. What got me into sports? My cousin from overseas came to visit when I was 8 years old. And it was 1986. I was 6, 7 years old. And we watched the World Cup together. And when we watched the World Cup, I was thrilled by, and I want to say that was the year Argentina won the World Cup. I was enthralled by competition. And then in 86, 87, my mom took me down to Tiger Stadium and I saw the series, the late series against the Blue Jays. My mom worked hard and she kind of knew I started liking sports and she knew the Tigers were a big deal. And so she took me down there and I just gravitated toward competition. I love sports. I love the idea of competition. And then to me, covering sports hit when I just want to do a podcast for fun back in 2013. I would do this with my cousin, my wife's cousin, and we would talk junk and text each other and all that. And we said, let's just do a podcast. Let's have some fun with it. The podcast grew wildly. And then when a media member did not invite me onto his television show and he told me I wasn't media, his producer had no clue who I was. I took it, a little bit offensively. And I said, oh, okay. I had you on my podcast. Your producer doesn't know who I am. I think I could be media. And so the seed got planted. I got pissed off how the teams treated me because they would ignore me day after day, time after time. And I said, I think this is good. I'm going to show them. Here are my numbers. Here's what I do. I'm going to be media. So they kept ignoring me. The Lions told me podcasts are non-traditional media, and we typically don't allow that. And they told me to join a big network. And I said, no, I'm a big network. So they initially credentialed me on probation with the podcast. But then I just got lucky. And through hard work, through sheer getting pissed off at the way I was treated and looked at, I said, if the traditional media is going to treat me this way, wait till I step in the door and how I'm going to act. And the blessing was I told everybody all throughout the podcast, I'm going to be media. Podcasts are media. Podcast is real. I'm going to be real, and I'm going to cover the NFL. So the only reason I'm really covering the NFL is because they told me I couldn't. And I've gotten to the biggest level that you could probably cover a sport and covering the NFL. And the blessing is the voice that I have, whether you say it's a fan voice, it's a different voice, it's a voice that's needed. I don't need to kiss anybody's ass. I ask Dan Campbell whatever the fans tell me to ask. And I can do it freely because I own the Detroit Sports Podcast. I can take all the heat. I have no reservations. I'm successful outside of sports. So it was something I wanted to do to prove that the traditional media could kiss my ass, and I could do it. And that's how I treated it. And that's how I've always treated it. The traditional media should have embraced podcasts. Now they embrace it, but they came along far too late. And they still misunderstand how to do this the right way with a podcast. Completely they misdo it. That's fine. That just benefits me. I got to do it. I need someone to pay me to do it. Oh, no, it's all extra. They don't put time into the audio. They don't put time into the research. They don't put time into the quality. They just do it haphazardly and then quit. Dude, I realized this podcast medium is beautiful for the independent voices. And it gave me a voice to march my ass into the media and become a media member. And really, in the end, I do it out of spite, and I do it for pure competition just to showcase that an average Joe, an average guy from East Point, Michigan, got into the NFL and shows up there and covers sports and asks Dan Campbell's questions. I mean, that's literally crazy. It's literally crazy. They let me do it. They keep letting me do it. And in the end, thank God, I get to show the company I work for these numbers. And they go, Jesus Christ, do whatever the hell you want, man. You're just be you, be Doc. And I get to be me. I get to act. Literally why does nobody act like me? Because I own the outlet. I own the outlet, and I steer it however I see fit. I got my little slice of the pie only because I was told I couldn't. I made the pie. Effing cooked the pie. I ate the pie, and now I'm like, fuck, I'm full. What the hell do I want to keep doing?
We got a couple questions about the same thing. Before we get to the trade deadline questions, Getaway Juan wants to ask you about the Spartans. He said, did Jonathan Smith pull a Monty Williams, or is he just not good enough for the Big Ten?
Listen, man, that's a whole other thing I could rant about. Listen, he's just not good enough. It's not the standard. It's just not good enough. You lost the whole fan base. You lost Ghetto Boy Juan. You lost the Doc. Listen, $30 million. Can the mortgage companies please pool your money together? Can you please just get this guy out of town? Listen, I don't care about 3 years. I don't care about rebuilds. I don't care about that. That guy is not leading the Michigan State Spartans to the national title. It's no fault of Jonathan Smith's. Michigan State deserves to be big time. We were there. You don't go from Mark D'Antonio approaching the national title and go backwards. You need high level. You need to find the best of the best. Stop acting like you're second rate, and you'll stop being treated like you're second rate. Jonathan Smith is a definition of a bridge head coach. So here's what you do. It's not nice. It's not great. Let him stay for another year, build it up, and then broom his ass out, and let's go get the Segnettis of the world. Keep the seat warm, Mr. Smith. Thank you for developing something, and then go out and broom his ass out and get somebody here that's going to win a national title. Like, I don't care if you say, oh, my God, you're Michigan State. Go out and get somebody that can coach football and win freaking games. It's not that hard. Find somebody that can find an offensive line and a defensive line and a running back and a wide receiver and play football. Whatever Michigan State does not resemble anything that a human fan would want to watch. It's atrocious. And you got your ass handed to you on homecoming in front of the world with an interim coach and a blonde-haired, offensive coordinator that's
he probably will be better than your coach ever will be as a head coach.
Yeah, exactly. He's better than the coach than we got. And we need time. You don't need time. There's a thing called the transfer portal. You can shop for talent. You find the talent, you pay the talent, and they play football. It's not that, like, in the end, I get it. It takes time. You got to find your guys. But you're 3-3. We need you to be 4-2, 5-1. Simple as that. The loss to UCLA was atrocious, and it's embarrassing. And the Spartan fan base hates it. So we're done. So you can do whatever you want. Nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore. Get somebody else.
Doc, were you guys favored in that game? Favorites?
I don't know. No, yeah, probably we were favorites.
Yeah, I think you guys might have been like 10-point favorites. Yeah, that sucks, man.
It sucks.
Well, Houdat says, Doc Mailbag, what do you think of the quietly good year Sam Laporta is having, especially in the last 2 games?
Oh, great stuff, right? I love that. I want to keep it going. I got it. I got the Lions 31 and the Bucs 24. 2 touchdowns for Laporta, 2 touchdowns for St. Brown, and a field goal, 31 points, baby. I think it's great. That's how I like to see it, man. I like to see this tight end be the security blanket. It's amazing. So it's great. And now, great to announce that the Lions have signed these former Panther safety or defensive back, and Christian wrote it. So you can learn all about him at Lions on SI.
Full Slate Farm says, Mailbag, will Brad Holmes push chips in this trade deadline?
I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a B-level move. He'll get graded okay, but I feel like I want better moves. So we'll see. It's the early formulation of this topic. It's going to depend also on how the team plays. So I'm excited to see how they look the next couple weeks. But I feel like the team is pretty good offensively. They're going to get some guys back. So it's going to be a fun situation to look at. But why not? Why not go big? But I don't know. Do they feel like this is the year with all those injuries that keep popping up, man? I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like the fan base is really happy with this offense. Maybe you support it. I kind of think what I said was pretty accurate. Go in the trenches, maybe 2 out of the 3, maybe another, if a team falls off the map, maybe you go 2 of 3, edge rusher, offensive lineman, or edge rusher and cornerback. I think more of the defense will get attention than the offense.
Jay Hart says, Mailbag, did you hear Zaire Franklin on the 520 podcast? Quote, Juju needed his ass whooped. He's been needing his ass whooped for a minute. Brian Branch doing the work of the Lord.
Well, Jay Hart, I would welcome you and all the great, and I feel like the chat today has been so much nicer. I'm really happy. You don't hate me as much today as in other days, which is really good. But listen, in the end, like I said, the reason why I've been successful is I have a lot of haters, which is really great because they don't understand, when you say the doc should be fired, that it's just not really possible. I have partners that will be with me for life. So the On SI is a great partner that will last as long as I feel like it's going to go, but I'm not going to be fired. I own Detroit Sports Podcast. It's never going to go anywhere. So I invite you to go to @Detroit Podcast, Jay Hart. You can see the video. It is hilarious to watch. And I invite all you guys in the chat to visit every day. You get to see how my brain works, and you get to see truly a guy that's truly independent can say whatever the hell he wants. I talk about this morning on my way to work, there's a Utica sign on Van Dyke Highway right next to a marijuana joint place. So I post that. I post stupid stuff from my brain, and it's a blessing. And that was the thesis of the whole Twitter page was, what if a clown just tweeted kind of whatever he was thinking at the time he thought it? What would happen? And what would happen? Creative greatness happened. It's fun, and I get to do it. And they haven't booted me yet. I really thought, in the end, honestly, I'm being honest with you guys, real and raw. I thought I'd be canceled. I was like, okay, I'll say something stupid. I'm successful outside of sports. I thought that I'd just be canceled and I'd say something stupid, and the cancel crowd would just say, you can't do sports anymore, and just cancel me. But the opposite happened. I literally thought I would say something in the last 15 years that would get me canceled. And the exact opposite happened. People's like, this guy's funny, or this guy's a big jackass, or we want to see what the hell this guy's saying. And every year, quarter after quarter, all the numbers kept going up. So I realized, wait a minute, I think the people kind of like me. More people like me because when they do talk to me or DM me, we talk sports, we talk junk. We realize it's fun. And then the trolls that talk stupid get blocked, and it's a beautiful experience. So visit @Detroit Podcast. I tell you, you'll laugh. You'll be like, what? and you'll be somewhat entertained on a daily basis. And it's all from me.
Well, Easy actually asked a question, just asking straight up, you think Bregman's a Tiger?
I think Bregman's a Tiger, baby. Clearly, I think Scott Harris was like subliminally talking to Bregman. I need somebody that can swing through the zone. I need somebody to show that I can pay somebody. I need a bat. Bro, it's too effing late. Too effing late. Bregman's not bringing you a World Series next year. You maybe can get there. Great. You know what I mean? You need to figure out who you're going to keep, Green or Torkelson. You need to broom out McKinstry. You need to broom out the guys that can't hit and get this thing moving. Maybe some of the guys will hit, but you're not winning the World Series with Skubal, with Skubal and the rest of that pitching staff. You got to overhaul it. So maybe if the baseball gods divinely give Skubal 30, 35 million, he'll stay here. But how do you lose the number one pitcher in baseball and end up winning the World Series? I don't see it. I feel like the window was a chance this year, and I just feel like you got to add so much more. And I don't know if they can do it in that fast. So we're going to have the conversation, and I'm curious what the thought is going to be. Do you guys want to trade Tarik Skubal? Common sense will dictate that answer to you, and I'm curious what you guys think.
Well, Doc, we appreciate the hell out of you, as always, for joining and just being the man. Keep it up. Keep grinding. You can follow the Doc on X at Detroit Podcast. Check out his work, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. We will see you next Wednesday, Doc.
Yeah.
Good luck on Monday night.
See you,
Thank
Doc.
you at Detroit Podcast, please. And then in the end, the true person I want you to know is I am, in the end, to bring it full circle, I am the Brian Branch of the podcast world. If you call me a troll, I might slap you up the head in the helmet. But when the shows are over and the cameras go off and the podcast mics go away, I truly am a nice guy that you could have a beer with, have a good time with, have a laugh with. But call me a troll and I might go 5 fingers to your head. I might say things you don't like. But in the end, I do what I truly, truly want you to know is John Maakaron is a nice guy that loves sports and loves everything about every Detroit team but Michigan. Michigan lost because they cheat and they're scum of the earth. But the rest of the community, I want you to know, message me, have a good time, but come correct. I can't wait to fire it up and talk to you guys next week. Let's effing go. Lions 5-2. And Scott Harris, you got what was coming to you, baby. Be aggressive. Fortune favors.
There you go. The DOC joining the show, chopping it up with the fellas here. I will say for the easy question, he says, Mailbag Jeff, why won't Birchfield follow me back? Because I can beat him up. I'm sure Will does know that.
He doesn't follow me back either, and I do a show with Jeff. We've had this conversation.
Yeah,
So,
he didn't follow me back until we do the show together. So I don't know. I will. Next time you see him at training camp or Lions.
So next year, Jeff's like, so next year, just say something to him next year.
Yeah, why not go? Hey, Will, what's going on? Or I'll say something for you, Easy. I got you. Be like, why don't you follow my boy Easy back, man?
Can you get me? Can you get me too?
Yeah, I will. I'll ask for both of you. I got you. Say follow my boys back. Doc taking me to the strip club. You know what? I think if there's someone I want to go to the strip club with, it's 1,000% Doc. So I would love to go to the strip club with the Doc. I think that would be amazing. I think he would get into some shit, man. I think he would get into some shit. That's why I would definitely need to go with the DOC. We appreciate you all. Shout out to Easy, man. Appreciate you for watching.
Easy's
you guys
a legend,
have
dude.
been awesome. We appreciate the support. I know we had some technicalities.
What a show, huh? I felt like I talked for 5 minutes today.
Yeah, with the whole Doc, well, join in, and then the YouTube having problems. It is what it is. But we'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. So be there. Come hang out with the fellas. But until then, you guys have a great rest of your night. Stay blessed.
Love you guys.